This is a 1997 Toyota Century V12. Getting ready to change out the rotors that need to be replaced, and also change out the parking brake shoes. In order to get the parking brake shoes, you need to remove the rotor and go from there. First things first, going to remove the entire caliper and then just put it off to the side. Don't need to do anything else with it. And then I'm going to have to remove these two Phillips screws or cross tip screws here. And I'm going to put some penetrating oil on these because these tend to like to strip out. And then I'll use a cross tip Phillips screwdriver and a crescent wrench to get these screws off, just to be on the safe side. The bolts for the calipers are 14 millimeter, and I'll also put some penetrating oil on those just to make it easier to get them off. You get these caliper bolts first, that way the rotor stays in place and doesn't get banged up. Before I put anything back together, the parts that I can, I'm going to put in an ultrasonic cleaner, get them cleaned up. And you'll see quite a bit of difference doing that. It's just going to sit up there until the rest of the work is done. Sometimes these screws can be very difficult to get off, or they will strip very quickly. I'm going to tap on the back of the screwdriver, and then I'm going to put the crescent on here and give it a good grip, and it comes off pretty easily. Same thing on the other one. Now the rotor can come off. You might not be able to see it, but right here in the shadow of it, that stud right there, there's a rubber boot right here. That rubber boot is so you can adjust the parking brakes by just taking the tire off. And what you do is you put a flat blade through here and you can adjust the adjuster on the parking brake. But it does need to be down here when you do it, and you'll see when I take this off, you can take this off as well just to make it easier. But when I take the rotor off, you can see this big hole right here, and the others aren't all the way through. This one is, and this one goes through to the adjuster. All right, for the rest of it, it's just going to be taking the brake shoes off. You get these return springs up here. You got springs on the side, and I did the other side of the car. I did try to find a tool that's specifically for removing these plates on top of the springs, and the three places I went to didn't have the tool. So I ended up making the tool, but that was after experiencing a bunch of frustration with trying to get them off and on. So I ended up modifying a tool I already had, and it makes such a big difference. So if you want to attempt to do this without that tool or a tool similar to it, go for it. But I tell you, it's going to make you pretty frustrated. Something I highly recommend before you start disassembling any of this is make sure you take pictures. And there's some very particular things that you need to pay attention to, like which spring is over which spring on the pin here. The pins that go in the back, there's a pin specifically on this side that is crooked, and it's crooked specifically because of how the brakes are applied. There's the adjuster. You want to make sure that you got that in the right direction, because that can go either way. There's a piece right in here that there's a spring on this side. You want to make sure that the spring goes back on that side, and then also pay attention to the orientation. There is a hump in that plate, so you can't go wrong if you just pay attention to the hump in the plate, but you could orient it the wrong direction. So just make sure you orient it the right direction. Like I said, as I disassemble this, what I'm going to do is I'm going to lay it out as I take it off, basically the way that it was on here, and then take a picture. That picture will help to ensure that I put it back together, as well as the other pictures that I take along the way. You can look online or go to a parts store and purchase the correct tool. This is actually a Dremel wrench, and it just happened to have a hole right here, so all I did was cut it off, and this works really good for removing these right here. The biggest pain with doing this job is the little pins on the back side, because as you're trying to push this, the pin wants to push out too. So either you got to put something back there, or you got to put your hand back there. Sometimes this job is hard enough with two hands, so just be prepared to possibly be frustrated. Sometimes it works better if you rotate this over where this hole is directly over it. And so what I'm going to do is use this tool that I made, hold the pin in the back, rotate it, and it comes right off. Don't forget about this piece in here, because this will come off the brake shoe, and it should come off the brake shoe if you're replacing the brake shoe. Now I'm going to do the other side. Alright, so I'm going to rotate this over again. I'm going to push on the pin on the back side and rotate. So there's that side. This pointed part right here in the center goes into the spring. Taking a picture right now of where everything is right here. You could go like this to pull that spring off. And the same thing on the other one. I'll just do one at a time. So pay attention to the orientation of the spring. There are some components on the bottom that you need to pay attention to. There is a spring and the adjuster on the bottom. This is the piece that goes under the lockdown spring. This is towards the back of the car. Alright, so now what we got is the adjuster. This side is threaded, so the threaded side goes towards the back of the car. There's another piece that came off while I took that off. This is the other side of this. Just slides on there. There is a spring and the parking brake lever that needs to come off. Alright, so that spring is off there. And pay attention to this orientation, take a picture, and now you gotta take the brake cable. So go on and off just like that. If you are in fact replacing the brake shoes, this piece will have to come off, and in my case it will. Horseshoe clip right here. Okay, now take the rest of that spring off of there, and now everything falls off. Okay, so that would be like that. This will be down here at the bottom. And I was talking about how this piece is curved. The spring goes over here. So this will sit up here where it goes. There you go, there's how everything is oriented, the way that it goes on. You can take the pins out. I'm taking these out because I want to try to remove some of the rust on them. This one is the one that goes in the back, which is not like the front one at all. The front one is straight. At this point, all of these pieces will go into the ultrasonic cleaner to get some of the junk off. This piece, after it goes in the ultrasonic cleaner, doesn't need to have grease put inside of it, because if you put it in like this, it'll clean it, but the inside will have water, and you want to make sure you put grease in because of the threading there. And the other thing I'll be doing is cleaning this up, putting some brake cleaner and using a pressure washer to clean it. There you go. That's how you remove the parking brake shoes, rotor, and all other components.